Radioactive Freedom. Welcome to the second segment of the last video. Now we're gonna look at the 2% that we did expound on a little bit when it comes to the cabal. Now, what does the 2% cabal consist of? Like how it is their structure made up of? For example, last we did look at the government, right? And we said that the government has the three spheres. Now the cabal is more similarly to the government, but more sophisticated. And we said in the government is where you'll get your executive, legislature, and your judiciary. And these people will be coming from there 90% of the population. They will be feeding into the government, which will be having the executive, which will be the president, and his ministers or the cabinet. And we'll be having the legislature, which is the members of parliament and different political parties. Then we'll be having the judiciary, which are the judges, the magistrates, the lawyers, advocates, and prosecutors as well. And the 90% is the down and the throat. You know, what it is called the goyim. You know, in a very extreme, they are called the profane goyim, but it's in a religious term. But the goyim, the kettle, it's the katakum, it's the dead people. You know, it's the senseless people. But anyways, now the 2% cabal that has the financial hegemony consists of the king, which would be royalty, and it will be royalty. And then also we are talking about the hierarchy of the 2% international cabal. Then we'll be having what we call the serfs. Now obviously the serfs would be the petty bourgeoisie. Now the petty bourgeoisie will be making part of this 2% cabal. Then we'll be having the knights. Now the knights is where we'll be having the elites, the elected politicians, and some clergymen make it to this elite of knights. So this is the structure of the 2% cabal in the world currently, and that's how it's run to bring about this financial hegemony which they are having. Now we know that the knights are knighted by royalty, and we know that the petty bourgeoisie bow down to royalty. Now who does the royalty bow down to? We might know it, but to say it might be insensitive, and it might fall in the realm of conspiracy. So we'll not be entertaining that. We'll be entertaining the structures that we currently know are there and they exist. Now we talked about the petty bourgeoisie, and I said the petty bourgeoisie are the corporates, the monopolies, the big businesses that are there in the world. And we said royalty is in this sense, remember we moved from the government sense to this sense. And remember here, this one, it's they get their feeding from, remember, it's the 90% population. Then it's the government, where we have the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, and some elite politician, probably maybe who are smart, get to make it to be knighted, and they become knights, and they become part of the 2% cabal. Some judges and advocates and what they also get to make it to becoming knighted, and some members of parliament get to be knighted and make it as well into the 2% uh, into the 2% cabal that exists in the world. Now, the knights is we clearly know that those who are knighted are politicians and the clergy. The clergy, we're talking about the bishops and stuff like that. And the serfs, we know that it's the petty bourgeoisie. These are the big business owners, big corporates. We're talking about mega companies. When we talk about mega companies, if I may name one, we're talking about Amazon. But yet again, Amazon is it's in a sense it's a front. It's a front because there's a mega investment, mega and huge company behind Amazon. And remember, all these are backed up by royalty. And how is it possible? Because royalty runs the fascist system, and they had the financial and historical advantage over the knights and the serfs, and that's why they have the financial hegemony above the mega companies and the knights. And that's why the serfs, who are now the petty bourgeoisie, bow down to the royalty, the king or the queen, and the politicians and the clergy, who are knighted by the king or the queen, bow down to the royalty. Now, this is the structure that is currently governing the system which we call capitalism. And this is a fascist capitalist system. As much as feudalism was also fascist, as much as slavery was also fascist, capitalism is also run by this fascist cabal. Now, coming into the revolution which is to take place, that's why we need to be careful, because the past 4 systems that we had, it was very much clear that these 4 systems which we had were somehow trying to be progressive in a sense of implementation of new system, but because of this fascist system, they were always hijacked. So even socialism throughout the 20th century and the 21st century, we know that some of it was hijacked by this fascist cabal. And therefore, when we talk about the implementation of a revolution, it has to be carefully guarded so that this fascist cabal does not have any hand in order to infiltrate it or even influence it towards its direction, whether it may be to destroy the financial institution of that revolution, that socialist revolution, or to destroy the economical leg of it, or to destroy even the political confidence of it, because that's where they operate. Remember, these are the enemies of the 90% of the people. They strive on making the minds of the 90% illiterate, so that the 90% may continue to look up to them as gods and may continue to building up their pyramid, and not the 90% pyramid, which is of the people. So this system is the system that we as socialists are dedicated to fighting. And that's why you'll find people like Che Guevara, people like Patrice Lumumba, people like Chrisana, people like Thomas Sankara, people like Amilcar Cabral, people like Fidel Castro, who survived 638 assassination attempts, people like Vladimir Lenin, people like Mao Zedong, people across the world who are trying to bring about socialism and empowering the people according to their local efforts and according to their national efforts, become attacked by this cabal and this system. Now, this system is well sophisticated, even though they had their mistake, but throughout the ages and throughout the centuries, it has been able to skillfully branch out, or we can say it has been able to minimize their mistake. And that's why we qualify them to be a monolithic block, which is very much strong and very much dedicated to the exploitation of the 90% of the people. And this is the enemy that we are fighting when we talk about capitalism. We're talking about this fascist cabal that strives on the blood and sweat of the workers, that strives on making sure that the 90% remain oppressed, that the 90% remained illiterate, and if not illiterate, it remains miseducated, because true education only exists in this circle of the 2%. The rest were miseducated. They determine our curriculum, they determine what we need to learn and what we need to study. And therefore, a revolution is about toppling this whole system and bringing about egalitarianism, which some may say is far-fetched, but it's not. It did exist before. When you would study the civilization of Egypt, you'll find that at one point Egypt did exist as an egalitarian system where they only had the clergy, which would become what we know as the pharaoh, because the pharaohs were kings, but they then evolved into becoming the clergy of that time, and they would only be officiating in terms of ceremonies annually, but they did not have any political power. The people were able to govern themselves. That's when you study the true system of Egypt, and you'll realize that in Egypt egalitarianism did exist, and cooperative and cooperation did exist, even though the pyramid was developed in Egypt. But yeah, I thank you.